All right, hey guys, here's the gear. We've got Krampus, a Dr. John's vegan shaving soap. We have the blade as the Gillette spoiler, a vintage slash discontinued blade. We have the Stirling Stainless Steel razor that came out a couple years ago. And we have the Semogue Torga C5, a stout little short Semogue. Before it came out, there really weren't very many Semogues along those lines in terms of that short. Most of them were more like the Owners Club here that were long, and even the 2000 was long here. And then you have the the 1250 here. I just happened to, since I'm doing my borathon where I'm doing hair dryer treatments, I have a number of brushes, bore brushes around me here, and most of those are Semogue because I'm such a fan of their bristles. Here's a small one, but it's also got a small diameter, and so that helps to keep it from being quite so stiff. Matter of fact, the one we're using today, the Torga, is it was very stiff for me for the first 20, 23, 24 uses, and it wasn't enjoyable because of that, because of the when you reduce the loft of the brush. Let me free up my hands of the other products. So we're going to put the spoiler, and I think maybe it's the 10th use around there for the spoiler. The razor we're going to use today, the Stirling razor, is an aggressive one, and it's the normal plate, which Rod, when he released it, said this is not an average aggression razor. This is kind of a higher aggression for people who want that. And so he definitely gave people fair warning. And so people like me who like the mild end of the spectrum wouldn't get our hopes up, right? Now, as far as the soap goes, this is Krampus from Dr. John's. And by Dr. John's, I need to maybe contact him to get some ingredient information so that I could tell which different edition, he calls them volumes, of the particular soap is. Sometimes there will be some that say like volume 2 or something. It'll tell you on the label. I don't think the volume 3 often says it on the label. This is a soap that has, as the third ingredient, potassium hydroxide, and the third ingredient, I believe, is castor oil on the volume 3 base. So this is probably volume 1 or volume 2. Judging from the looks of it, I think we should probably assume volume 2. But I need to contact him because I do like to keep track of the different versions because performance can vary. An easy thing to look for is slippery elm bark because that was added as a volume 3, and that's not in there. That's a funny name that might be easy to remember, you know. So Krampus, it's a holiday type theme because that is a mythical creature born out of the Alpine, kind of Austrian, Germany type regions. And it has migrated with German and those kinds of people throughout the world. But Krampus is a character. He's the opposite of Santa Claus. He's not good or evil in the sense, at least according to some references, but he just represents more like judgment and retribution, punishment, that kind of thing. It's really funny. Somebody said punishment. One source said punishment, but then another one said neither good nor evil. So, take it for what it's worth there. But if you are good, then you get a visit from St. Nicholas. But if you've been bad all year, around the Christmas season in December, I don't believe this part of the legend is specifically like on Christmas Day. I think like December 5th or somewhere in that time frame. I believe that's what I saw online. But it's in the Christmas season. Krampus is the one who comes if you have been naughty all year. And then he takes you away. Indeed, we can see he's got a sack on his back with a kid in it. He takes the kid away, and as one article even mentioned, he takes them away to hell. And so it's historically a way to scare your kids into being good. Now, whether you ethically agree with that or not is neither here nor there for this shave. But that is the legend, and that is he is almost pretty much always a half goat, half man type character. Yep, he's usually got a long tongue. Dr. Johns featured him with the long tongue, the horns, that sort of thing. And even to this day, there are areas in Europe, specifically in that Alpine region, where um, uh, men will dress up like Krampus during some certain days in that period, and they'll scare kids. Just part of their tradition, right? And I avoided this one, even though I'm a fan of Dr. John's soaps, because it has anise in it. And I have so many soaps. I have several Dr. Johns that I enjoy. Propaganda, that's got a wonderful orange to it. The Anne Bonny was a little bit too spicy. Great thing about recording is that I can pause and go find information if all of a sudden I realize that I need it. And so, in addition to the propaganda that was the one that jumped right to my mind, I actually have I have several of his, and a lot of them I really enjoy. The Victory or Death was that kind of monster theme that he did. He did one with Wolfman, one with Vampire Guy, and then another one. I really like the Victory or Death. The Blood Oath is a great kind of blood orange type scent, and it's not too fancy, but I just really like it. 13 was a wonderful Valentine's Day focused scent. It comes out at a seasonal release usually, and it happens to be a Valentine's Day that I really enjoy. I was a part of his special little thing, not special like just to me, but he had a Sunday Fun Day special release where if you subscribed, then you would get sent like every month or whatever. It was kind of a short run, kind of haphazard creation, maybe an experiment that he'd been dabbling with. And while the majority of those I did pass on to other people, I definitely kept the Sakura Musk. And matter of fact, that one was so good that he turned that into a normal scent in his line. And then, if you are a fan of lavender, then the Flowers in the Dark is a kind of an earthy lavender. I don't really think it's too dark per se. It might be more dark than a really kind of girly lavender, but in terms of just objectively being kind of dark, I would not say that myself. However, it is a lavender that I could definitely see myself using. It's not frilly and feminine and that kind of thing. And so if you like vegan soap bases, especially, then and you like lavender, I think that you should put that one on your list to try. I think if you go for tallow often, I'll bet there are better performing tallow lavenders out there for you. But then my favorite so far from Dr. John's is Dr. Strangelove, and that one had this. It is quirky, and of course it references a past novel or movie or whatever, and it had concrete and earth and fear and soil and things like that, and it came across as just this great scent that I really enjoyed. It had aldehydes added to it, which added to kind of the mystique, and I just really I'm so glad I picked that one up. And so we'll see how Krampus works out in terms of liking it. But as you can see, since I've got several already of Dr. John's, and anise is not one of my ingredients that I like very much at all. And so you're taking a gamble. If you see it on the list, you don't know whether it's just a small accent piece or you don't know if it's a large part of the profile that you're going to get. And so that's why I held off on Krampus. Again, if I didn't say it already, honey, myrrh, cider, berries, anise, and fear is what we're looking at here. This is a used tub. I can smell the anise. We'll see. It doesn't smell bad. It doesn't smell like it's too much. We'll see how it comes across when we get everything wet. And one of the things about Dr. John, since he's vegan, obviously he's got some concerns, and one of those drives him to, at least so far, release his soaps in these metal tins, which are recyclable. They are they'll biodegrade if they get left out somewhere. They'll rust and then decompose into the earth, right? instead of the unlike the plastic ones. And so that's why he is sticking with what looks like an older type of container. And they don't travel as well. Here's an illustration. Here's some noble otter that got dented, and then look at this. And now that would be kind of some abuse right there, right? But once they get dented, sometimes you can't get the lid on and off and that sort of thing, and so they may not be as good as travel soaps as the plastic tubs are, but you know, that can happen. It's a pretty good vegan soap base. I wouldn't say it's top notch, but it's really good. Often it's referred to as thirsty, and so those guys who like to underwater the lather, and by that I mean underhydrate their lather, might find this guy wanting and in need of more slickness. And so make sure you provide maybe on average a little bit more water than you might, because I like to kind of hydrate my lathers really well. I never noticed too much of an issue. All right, so let us work up the lather. Take the Torga C5, little stubby guy, very solid handle, comes very stiff. He's going to destroy your lathers the first 15-20 uses, and it'll be very discouraging, but fear not, just keep going. All right, so I'll shake most of the water out, and then let's go here and load 30 seconds. Why not do something like that? Start at 50. This is a used soap. I got it in a lot purchase, and so I was actually excited to get it. I was glad that it was in there. I didn't buy it for this particular soap, but I was glad that it was there because I just had seen it for years and wanted to try it. I like to make sure I soak this brush for about 15 minutes if I can, because it needs that water to get into those boar bristles. Let them absorb that so that they can bend as much as possible and give me that splay. I'm kind of taking all the yumminess out of the tub and putting it in the bowl. So there we go. He didn't get too wet as we worked him up, as we loaded. Oh, before I do this, I'm going to get my face wet. All right. So we'll get to mixing him up. A bowl this deep sometimes start to show its weaknesses with a brush this short. Knock the knuckles and that sort of thing. And that's why I'm glad that it's a large bowl, because that definitely helps. Yeah, that anise is definitely coming through kind of forward. A vegan soap will sometimes be a little airy at first. And if you want to look at textures, look at that kind of jaggediness around, how firm it is. It's up on the wall, hanging there. See, look at what we have there too. He definitely is a pasty lather at this point. So now that we've kind of equalized everything, it's time to start adding some water. I don't mind adding quite a bit there. Probably a whole 10 milliliters right there. So I need to get that soap lid nearby so that I can look at those scent notes. We are looking at myrrh, honey, cider, honey. No. Anise, definitely. Berries, no. Do I smell any kind of spices like myrrh? Maybe, but kind of not. Okay, by adding that water, we've definitely increased our volume. But as you can see, we're still hanging up there on the wall, no problem there, but you can see how much more kind of creamy and cushy it looks. We'll keep going. And the reason I picked the Krampus to do today was because my recent shaves have been with Santa Noir from Mammoth. And I thought, you know what? Krampus is in my little pile of ones to try, so what better time to try it than right after another holiday / December type scent. So this is definitely a soap to go for if you like vegan soaps that perform well and have a strong and almost solitary anise note, black licorice. Now you can see the lather is increasing in volume. It's still quite firm. You can see it is nowhere close to moving, keeping its shape, all that. Now, some vegan soaps, you can't really get to a creamy state while being well hydrated. They have to be run a little drier than kind of my normal level of hydration. And so that's why I do prefer tallow. But the better vegan soaps will do that. And you can get them really hydrated and they'll still have kind of a creamy, luxurious feel to them. Fingers definitely getting soapy with a short-handled, short-lofted brush like this one. Now we're starting to get kind of that creamy type, heavy feel to it since we added that water. Yeah, look at that. The better tallow soaps, once they get kind of to this point, you've got a little bit more wiggle room. You've got some flex where if you can still kind of add water without incurring any damage to the lather, without it thinning out too much, you know, that sort of thing. But with most vegan soaps, your little perfect window, at least for my own preferences, is a little more narrow. When we get to this, I mean, that's a wonderful looking lather there. And so let us just go with that. Let's go with that, because this is a brush that still, it's not super flexy since it has that short loft, and I'm looking forward to treating it with the hair dryer because we are on our borathon here. This is the only bore brush that I have that hasn't had 27 uses on it to this point. And so I'm going to complete that, and then from now on, it's me doing hairdryer treatments to bring them all up to 5 treatments, just like the Semogue 1800. And so that's what we're doing, because as you can see, this represents just part of my bore collection. And with so many brushes, especially when you bring in the Badgers, and I have one horse and one synthetic, when you bring in so many, that's a very big collection. It's a big rotation, and these bores just weren't going to mature in time. And so I brought in the hairdryer as an accelerator. I had a couple of good guys give me some good information on it, had been using it for a while. I had tried kind of the long soak method in some respects, but it just didn't really seem to work as quickly as I wanted, and in some ways maybe not quite as safe, especially that working it really hard on a towel after the fridge soak. I just wanted to try something different, and I landed on the hairdryer method. It's kind of a conservative hairdryer method. Anyway, there's another video about that out there on my channel if you want to go find it. All right, let me splash my face one more time. Then it's time to put some black licorice on my face. I remember we had our local mall had that bulk candy store, and they had the ropes of licorice, black and red. And so I always picked the red because I didn't like the flavor of the black. But they would cut the long ropes to whatever length you wanted. Now the tips here are quite soft, as with, so many other Semogues. This is the premium grade bristle, and so the tips are really very soft. Now you can see it's getting very wet, and so I'm glad I stopped adding water. Maybe I didn't need any more kind of splashes of water on my face. Some soaps do this. I did press intentionally down, pretty firm on the brush while I was mixing up the lather. And so I believe that I didn't have any kind of excess water in the brush that kind of flushed out. And so I think this is perhaps just the newness of the brush. 27 uses this one is now, and that's still quite young for a bore. Using a bore brush can definitely be a relationship especially if you just use it, and then you can really watch it grow as you use it. And when you feel it change, when you all of a sudden realize how soft it is on your face, then it's a neat phenomenon, kind of a bond between your brush and yourself. There we go. Just adding a little bit more soap was all that was needed. Three days of growth is what we are working on here. Oh, you know what? I probably have some extra oils on my skin, and so those will definitely hamper the performance of your lather, the kind of stability of it and all that. Now, while I let the lather sit on my face, why don't I take that moment to do something that I haven't done yet, to put the blade in place. Now, this is actually, maybe I want to change, this is kind of a happy accident. I may want to change the way I do things, because I'll talk to you, well, usually when I talk to you in the beginning and talk about products and stuff, I'm waiting for my brush to soak for a little bit longer. But if I have managed to soak it before the shave, then maybe now, as this first pass softens my whiskers even more, now would be a great time to talk about stuff. And then we could also see, does it dry out on my face, that sort of thing. It might be a nice use case test there. Now, the razor we're going to use today is Stirling's Stainless, the only stainless that they've ever produced. And interesting story with this guy. It was quite long anticipated, and there were delays because the company that Rod was initially working with to have it done, they stamped "Made in the USA" on it, but then he discovered that they had actually sent it out to China to have a lot of it done, and then they brought it back in house, and he was not having that. He's a patriot, and I'm sure he also felt deceived. It would be my assumption if my facts are correct. And so there were definitely some delays, but it eventually came out. And you have this base plate, and you can even with the, look how much that gap is, right? It's definitely looks like something that's gonna be a little on the aggressive side. And it does have the rails that hold the blade centered perfectly, I might add. It does have those in the center, and I'm not in the center, on the base plate here instead of on the top cap. So let's find that spoiler blade. And I thought this might be a good razor to use today. Number one, because I have 3 days of growth on my face, and while this aggressive razor may not do me any favors on the third pass, it is going to be just fine on the first pass with so much stubble. Now this handle is and I have to look at my reference, this is the Dallas handle, okay? he released 3 handles. My eyeballs are not allowing me to, there we go. Finally lined it up right. I was holding it kind of crooked. Okay, it holds it perfect every time. It's well machined. It's not expertly machined. There are some areas where you can see milling marks and things like that, but he was pretty straightforward about that. Not on the handle, but just on parts of the head, especially the kind of the interior of the base plate, that sort of thing. But he was straightforward. He said basically that he could have done that, but then the razor would have cost a lot more because of that effort. Okay, and then I have another handle. This one is the Austin. You can see some significant differences. This one was the first one that I ever saw with his pictures. And I thought, man, that looks weird to have such a long little neck right there. And to me, I'm always holding the razor up in this area, right? And so I thought, this is just not going to work for me at all. And so that's why I thought that this handle was going to be more one that I liked, because it had the knurling, and it's a perfect knurling too. It doesn't feel too rough, but it is definitely grabby. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful kind of diamond pattern, where here you can see how the points of the diamonds kind of interlace there, and then here's the fat part of the diamonds right there, and then the diamond surface itself has some cross hatching on it as well to just make it this perfect knurling. And but then what I discovered in practice, and what I'm going to confirm with this shave today, is that I need a little bit more width right here for this knurling. This finger is just kind of loosey-goosey on this slim, slick surface, and I don't think I like that because it doesn't offer me the control. It's kind of a heavy razor. I don't like the feel of it, but it's going to illustrate one point that we will make clear later. So this is the Austin, and I think in the end, I'm about to sell probably this handle with the high aggression head that I have. I'm about to sell that to somebody most likely, and so this is my final test kind of with this handle. And in the end, even though this felt like wielding a hammer, it was still enjoyable, and I almost feel like it's kind of more the personality of the Stirling Stainless razor. And, you know, why not have something different? And of course, with this much grip that you have there, it's just not a problem to have your fingers in a different part of the razor. It definitely doesn't offer that kind of shock absorbing quality of holding it at the midpoint of the, more closer to the center of balance. It doesn't have that advantage, but I've got tons of other razors that do offer that. So here I made a little diagram mainly to keep myself reminded about which name, because since this is a product that has come, and I think he did his run and now he's done and has been discontinued, I think it's hard to find information. Like, you can't just look up Stirling Stainless razor handles and you can't then go to their site because they're not on there anymore. So you almost have to find some kind of archive, and so I wrote down the names. Now, if you know the names, then you'll be able to find pictures other people have taken of their handles. So we have the Austin, the Dallas, and the Fort Worth. The Fort Worth is almost exactly like the Dallas. It has that same small section here near the center of mass, but then this section here at the end, as you can see, is just a lot shorter. It doesn't have the knurling right there. It only has it kind of in one round bit at the end, and that's the Fort Worth. I don't have that handle, as you might imagine. All right, so we'll see if this guy turns out not to be all that enjoyable. But the point he's going to illustrate is that, and this is a question that one of you guys proposed to me, and I knew that I would tell it in a video. Talk about the razor. I'm going to talk about a little bit of it, the movement of the razor across your face, and how to hold it, and kind of what to expect, what to think about. And my whole point is not to have leverage. Don't hold a razor like this with the purpose of you maintaining a firm angle or a firm pressure in and out from the face. If our purpose here is to keep the blade just on the skin, but not really pushing into the skin. Of course, it can't be away from the skin. It's not going to cut anything, but it just has to ride that perfect line of staying on the skin without pressing in, is my personal belief is the best way to go. because then you're not driving that blade into your skin, causing irritation, that kind of thing. And so holding it at the center of mass is a great way to do that, because as it hits bumps, do you see it pivot? Do you see this go up and down because it's a lever here and it pivots? And so holding it like that allows it to move over the surface of your skin and not dig in if you fail to anticipate a particular high spot, that sort of thing, right? And then if it turns out to be too mild of a stroke, then just do it again and you haven't damaged yourself. I think there's a good many new guys who have poor razor technique. They're pressing too hard on their face and it's giving them irritation, so they think they have sensitive skin. It's so often online where we have guys join in and say, hey, I found this great shaving method, but I've got a thick, coarse beard and sensitive skin. We've got memes about that. It happens so often. And I think most of the time it's not true. They don't have sensitive skin per se. They just have bad razor technique and they have bad lathering technique. Their lathers are not slick enough to protect well, and their razors are being pressed too hard against their skin, or the angle is not quite right, that sort of thing. All right, so there is 7 millimeters, 8 millimeters of overhang here. So we're not talking about a lot of blade support from the bottom. Now this is not the high aggression head. It's even more aggressive than this, and this is aggressive. Probably beyond what I like, but since this razor is not going to be made anymore, I'm dabbling about keeping it because I love Stirling as a company so much, and who knows, maybe someday I'll like this kind of razor. Riding the cap with an aggressive razor is often a technique I use to mitigate the aggression, because you are lifting the blade edge a little bit more off your face than during kind of a normal angle. All right, so let's go. Let's feel my face. Oh yeah, see, we've got some dissipation here. But that's kind of normal. I've been talking for several minutes. That doesn't really bother me too much. So what we can do, just kind of bring in some of that good wet lather and go at it. We definitely have softened up the hairs with this particular shave. So I'm going for a very light touch on the skin. I thought it's possible that the blade that we're dealing with here today, since it has had about 10 uses on it, that might smooth it out to where it is a better worker in this razor. I'm definitely feeling some tugging. Also, a razor like this, for me, is going to kind of start barking in terms of tugging when the razor starts not being quite as easy to cut. It's going to start tugging in that situation. Definitely kind of tuggy, but I mean, it is 3 days of growth. So now the real shave is going to start here in a second, when we have definitely removed a lot of the stubble, 95% maybe, who knows, maybe even more. So we'll see how this aggressive razor treats me from here on. Let me rinse. I don't think I'll do that talk while the lather's on me thing anymore, especially when it's a longer subject like we had today, because it's just natural that any lather is going to have the water slowly evaporate over the course of several minutes. Yeah, this looks really good. It is translucent. And in this case, that means it's well hydrated. I actually expect the performance to be a little bit better here because this lather is a lot more hydrated than that first one. All right, so we're going to go cross grain. Paying attention to the feel. If it gets to feeling too aggressive, I will raise the handle out a little farther from my face, which causes it to have a lower blade angle, and kind of, we call that riding the cap. A little bit more pressure, not pressure, but a little bit more of the pressure is relieved from the safety bar. I'm not putting more pressure. This is why I corrected myself. I'm not putting more pressure on the top cap. I'm just putting less pressure on the safety bar. Yeah, this is actually doing all right. With this kind of razor of this aggression, I definitely have to watch my technique. Do not want to have that falter here, especially in this area right here. So that's the second pass, very comfortable, and I think I could walk away after this second pass. My skin feels very smooth. It was a nice, slick lather. I'm really glad about that one. Needed that protection today. Should I do one more? I don't know. I need to test this razor out with more blades. Who am I kidding? I got other stuff to sell first before I sell this guy. I will get rid of the high aggression head though, and probably this handle. So here on this third pass, let's pay attention to how that handle feels to me. My middle finger doesn't really have a knurling to sit on, and so it's kind of flailing in the wind there. And the narrow parts here that are buffed and shiny, they are slippery if you've got soapy hands, but not to worry, the knurling is not a problem. I don't really like it when handles get this thin, and so I guess that's another reason why I like the Austin handle, because it's got such a nice big area. And you know what, design wise, I think if he would have lengthened this knurling area, practically it would have been nice, because like two of my fingers could have just had a very secure hold on it, but I don't think the looks would have been as good as what you see here. And I think that may be part of the reason, for that. All right, I do feel a little tenderness, so let's just ride the cap a little bit and be very careful. Hopefully I won't get any kind of nasty razor burn that lasts longer than a few minutes. Most of the time, any irritation I get is short-lived, and so it's just not a big deal. All right, here is the catch right here in this area. Now up here's not too bad. Over here is not too bad. This is usually okay. Now I'm stretching my skin just a little bit. I'm trying not to overstretch. That is possible. Okay, now I'm going cross-grain from the other direction. I can definitely give myself some irritation right here. I think I do have sensitive skin right here, but it's not like heavy sensitive. It's just kind of lightly problematic, and only if I have kind of a razor like this. Now, this is a bump, a ridge because of muscles or whatever. I wonder if maybe turning my head or turning my shoulders might turn that into a more manageable, less bumpy situation. Yeah, that's a smooth. In this case, we have an aggressive razor that cuts me very nicely, and it can do that in fewer passes. There are other aggressive razors that, because of the way they feel, because of their tendency to bite me, because of their tendency to create irritation, I end up not getting as close of a shave by the end of even 3 passes. So it's a neat line to try to walk there. And it might be different per each person. But it's either comfortable, and so I have no problem doing as many passes as I need, or there's 2 other categories. It's too aggressive, or it's not comfortable, and either it's aggressive enough to where, because of concern for my irritation, I end up not getting a great close shave, or there's that nice little place where it does feel aggressive, but it's not quite as bad enough to cause me to back off with my technique or whatever is causing that. it still works. It still gets close, and maybe that's the kind of razor in 2 passes I can just walk away. And I believe that's what kind of razor this is. I would be more comfortable if I'd have stuck with the 2 passes, but this was kind of a trial. Maybe we'll try more blades in this one, because at this level, when it's so much higher than my own preference level in terms of aggression and razor feel and blade edge feel, that blade choice could really play a big impact on that. So yes, the closeness of today's shave is terrific, terrific. The glide that I got because of this lather was equally terrific. In retrospect, sure, I should have walked away after 2 on this one, but this does tell me what I wanted to know about this razor head, and I'll definitely put some more uses on it, and we'll see what happens. The lather performed really well. The blade here cut very well. It's at its 10th use or so, and so it's still cutting nicely. Matter of fact, kind of too nicely, because I do have some irritation in this area. Now, it's the kind of irritation where I feel like it might get inflamed if I used an alcohol splash. However, after several minutes, it would just settle down and I'd be fine anyway. But I've got balms that need to be used. So the Krampus, the scent, did it ever turn into anything other than the licorice? The black licorice? It has backed off a little bit. And it's weak right now. And so it didn't bother me during the shave because the scent kind of stepped back. I don't think it changed away from the anise or the black licorice type scent, but it became less dominant, less bothersome to my nose. So yeah, I'll definitely be selling the Krampus to another person who wants to celebrate a mythological holiday creature who comes to drag children to hell if they've been naughty in December. All right, we used up, I believe this was, nigh perfect in terms of the lather. I could have, it may be the wet end of perfect. I could have backed off maybe a little bit with the water, but that really could have been due to this brush. These young boars do treat lathers a little differently. It needs to get some age on it. 22 milliliters of water was used for 30 seconds of loading. That's kind of perfect. I got some margin left over, enough for 2 passes. It looks terrific. It's not as creamy as some of the good tallow soaps, but it does the job really well. Lightly creamy, very slick. So I would consider it above vegan. Personally, my opinion, I like this batch much better than Martin de Condré, a popular and seemingly luxury vegan soap experience, but I used Martin de Condré for a month one time, and after the first week, I didn't want to use it anymore. I didn't like the kind of performance it gave. By the time I hydrated it as much as I wanted, the creaminess just was gone. It was gone. Where this one maintains a level of creaminess to it when still being hydrated to that level. And I would put it above Prix de Provence. Now, number 63 is this amazing, smoky, warm, spicy scent that I love so much, and so I'm not putting the scent in second place or whatever, but the performance of that particular vegan soap is a little step above MDC, but it just doesn't get kind of creamy when it's really well hydrated like I prefer. But it's very utilitarian because unlike MDC, it's cheap comparatively, but it'll last so long. It's a great utilitarian soap if you have kind of a low budget, especially given the fact that the 63 might be a scent that you especially enjoy. So to have an inexpensive soap with an amazing scent is really cool. All right, so I would definitely put Dr. John's Vegan above that. He's probably not above the new version, the last couple of years now, of Southern Witchcrafts, for instance. He might be similar to Katie's Bubbles. It's been a long time since I've used Katie's Bubbles. I might have to start listing my vegan bases and try to put a little chart together there. All right, guys. Well, there we go. Let's do a balm. I'm not smelling the licorice at all right now, kind of resident. and it's kind of a low slung flavor. It's a scent. It's not really bitter, jumping out at you, especially in these lower concentrations. And so I think any aftershave product could be done here. But so you know what? Let me use. I keep forgetting that I have this Gratiot League Square here. This is the way Chatillon Luxe used to do their salves, in these little jars. And for a while there were shipping problems, or separation problems, and it would separate almost like butter does, or yogurt or something like that. And so no problem, just get a little toothpick, or in my case the end of my measuring, and look, it's a custom Chatillon Luxe applicator. How about that? And you don't need a lot. And it's kind of buttery and oily, and it's definitely something you put on your skin. I think they actually recommend putting it in your hand first and kind of letting it melt and come together that way first, but I just kind of shortcut it and do this. And it hydrates really well. It will soak into your skin and not be greasy in a short order. Oh, but this is a great scent. And so let's, yeah, I'm glad I remembered that I had that. We'll use the nourishing properties of this salve for after today's shave. In a sense, I don't like bringing discontinued products to you, and so the spoiler blade, for instance, but they can still actually be had on eBay, and sometimes the price isn't too bad. But to be honest, I don't really miss the this blade. It's not too different. It's not really better than some of the other blades that are modern, that are currently available, for me at least, right now. And so don't feel like you've missed out on some amazing thing. For me, the Gillette Silver Blue, there are a bunch of other blades that work just as well in this guy. The Astras, for me at least, the 7 o'clock blacks, and some of the other 7 o'clocks as well. There are personas. There's some different personas, like the Persona Platinums do great. So it's a great blade. I've used it in several different razors, and I enjoy it. But we do have some contemporary blades, for me at least, that do just as well. So we don't have to cry over the loss of that one. Oh, that's a good scent. All right, so now the Torga C5 can begin his journey through the hairdryer. And you won't see any more bore brushes on my channel until they are like the 1800 here, and until they've gotten 5 uses, and then we will use them for a 28th time, and then we keep on going and do 5 more, and then a use, and then 5 more, and then a use. And by that time, by that 30th use, each bore brush would have had not only those 30 uses, but plus 15 treatments of the hairdryer, and they should feel much different than they do at 27 uses now, currently. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit, because the brushes that are bore bristle, they will reward you with time. With the time that you put in, you'll be rewarded in the softness and performance. And a lot of people don't have the patience to do that. And that's another motivation for me to kind of do what I'm doing here, and to focus on bores here with my channel. Another reason I like bores a lot, they are cheap. These little guys here, $12.50. That's almost the price. It's terrific. And this guy here is a wonderful big splay, kind of brush. You're not going to consider him wimpy at all. And he's not that expensive either. Zenith also has a few cheap options in terms of the bores. Omega definitely does. They have tons. And see, the Omega here, long throw, because their bristles take forever to break in. Another great reason to do this hairdryer break-in method, right? And so I've treated this one a couple times, and you can already see the tips split even more. I'm really happy about that. Oh man, this salve is just, I've got this wonderful cloud around me. of this this scent, Gratiot League Square GLS. Well, that's it for today. Bringing you the Stirling. Yeah, I did not really enjoy as much as if there would have been some grip right here, but it wasn't really too bad. It wasn't as bad as I remember, but I think I will still sell this handle because I just have so many other handles and other razors, you know, and so let's pass this along to somebody else. And the spoiler continues to live. And here is what I was talking about with the Stirling razor. The milling marks, you can kind of see it's not polished and buffed really well during this part, but this is, of course, is hidden during shaving, and it doesn't really matter that it's not ultra polished. It's just fine. So the fact that he saved us money by doing that, I think it's a great thing. I haven't heard that he's going to bring them back, but he may. He may do another run. I would expect if there's a lot of demand, you know, but I think it would have to be from guys who like aggressive razors. And the Blackbird, for me, is an aggressive razor. The Charcoal Goods has a series of aggressive. Their standard razors are quite aggressive. Their everyday is not, but the normal ones from Charcoal Goods are quite aggressive. So there are definitely other aggressive razors out there. I found the nice one from Chiseled Face is the titanium one that he recently released. That one is a little bit too aggressive for me. And so that's, again, in that kind of a similar camp. But a wonderful piece of American work. Thanks to Rod, it stayed American. And we can have pride in our country. That is okay. All the best to you guys, and I hope that there was some good stuff in here to help you with your shaving journey. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Have a good day.